His IQ's a little higher.
Mr. Trey Dill, come up. He's working his way orange scarf. Everybody give Trey a hand.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all. Talking to it.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing today? Very awesome. It's so wonderful to see all of you people coming out to join us tonight because this is really an incredible experience.
Louder, Trey.
Okay. I'm apparently not loud enough.
Scream, Queen.
But this is an incredible time for us today. I believe this is the first time our nation as a whole has come together to demand equal rights for gay and lesbian and transgender and all people of the world because, let's face it, we deserve it. It's always been a part of the American dream, as I've come to understand it, that everybody just wants a little bit of security, and everybody deserves just a little bit of security. And I sincerely believe that marriage equality will help us achieve that. I am Yes. Okay. Jill, would you like to come out and speak for us first?
Well, I'm happy to say that I'm married and I have a husband. I'm openly gay pastor and I'm excited about that. The only problem is I was discriminated against my whole life for being gay, and then I go out to California on October 2nd to get married, and I'm legal, and now I'm questionably married. And so I want, and I believe that all of us need that right to just have peace in our lives and acceptance in our lives. That's what this is all about. It's all about letting the world see that we are normal, that we are not misfits, we are not someone on the outside, that we're people of God, that we're all children of God, that we're all accepted. And this is exciting. This whole group is exciting. They wanted me to lead you in a song, but I cannot sing, so it's best that if you want to lead, someone else needs to do that, because I've never been good at that. But this is exciting. You need to be encouraged of what's going on. Oklahoma, we have made leaps and bounds from the time I was a child. I'm 42 years old, and I never thought this day would come. This is something exciting. All of you young people, keep encouraging us, keep leading us, keep taking us forward, because we're going to follow and we're going to push you until we eventually get the equal rights that we deserve.
That's right!
Okay, I'm back. Okay, I would like to introduce our next speaker, and that is Mr. Guy Peters. Guy, step on up.
Go Guy! Go Guy!
What's up, Oklahoma City? Let's get close to the hero sound. I want everybody to know that being gay, hey, it's okay, all right? That's cheesy, but I want you also to know, I do want to take a time out to remember somebody that 30 years ago was against discrimination in California. This is our time to remember all the people that have been lost in the past, that have died in recognition of trying to find equality. His name was Harvey Milk. Okay, I want to play something, and I don't know if this is going to go off, but Harvey Milk is one of my heroes, and it's very relevant today, and hopefully this will come off good.
Proposition 6, and now we owe them something. We owe them to continue the education campaign that took place. We must destroy the myths once and for all, shatter them. We must continue to speak out, and most importantly, every gay person must come out.
Years ago. 30 years later, here we are. 30 years ago, we were... 30 years ago, here we are. And Proposition 8 defeated us. But there is tomorrow. And tomorrow is our day. Okay. Let's legalize gay marriage first, okay? Now, as some of you know, I'm with OKC Pride, and we're going to have our June parade. This year's theme is You Be the Change. And I think it's very relevant that in order for us to change, you must step up and be the change.
Yes.
This is not just some euphoric energy that we're going to face today. We need to step up tomorrow. We need to step up next month. We need to step up next year for our future. Because it's important that if we want something to happen, you're going to have to be involved.
That's right. Bring it on.
I hope to see you involved in your community in the future. Thank you.
That was great, Guy. Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Jim Nemo. Jim? Jim? Hello, Jim. Okay, good.
Making my way through the crowd.
There you go.
Hello, Oklahoma City. My name is Jim Nimmo, and I'm very excited to be here. I had to write it down because I knew I wouldn't be able to remember half of what I want to say. I think we're here because
We want our government to acknowledge our rights as citizens of the United States. We want the First Amendment guarantee of separation of church and state to be honored. I firmly believe that the religious point of view of particular denominations is standing in the way of our full LGBT equality. I speak and write plainly and directly to try and help our opponents understand the issues. I may not be the best looking fruit in the basket, but I'm certainly one of the ripest. In 2004, my partner and I of 32 years were plaintiffs in an ACLU lawsuit to try and stop Oklahoma's version of Proposition 8. Unfortunately, we were defeated. In 2005, I was an openly gay candidate for the Oklahoma City School Board, and I came in third on a ballot of 4 candidates, receiving 10% of the vote. For the modest campaign that I was able to construct, I was very glad with that return. If I can do it, I know some of you out there are much brighter and more well-connected than I can, and I encourage you to try again for public office. I say that I'm the ripest because 39 years ago, when some of you weren't born, I was just graduating from high school. Neil Armstrong was making the first moonwalk in July of 1969. Our opponents and enemies would say we're asking for that moon today, but I think we're only asking for what is our due as citizens of the United States. And as treasurer of Stonewall Democrats of Oklahoma, I have a special fondness for what happened in the previous month of June 1969. In New York City, the first well-publicized and sustained demonstrations against homo-hating bigotry had taken place. The Stonewall riots removed forever the stigma of the closet. That shockwave has been vibrating for nearly 40 years. Rex Walkner, a well-known internet blogger and reporter, has suggested that the passage of Prop 8 in Oklahoma and the nationwide events of the past week and today nationwide is a renewed Stonewall 2.0, a new release of energy and imagination in the fight for our LGBT equality. Earlier this year, we gathered at the 39th Street Park at Classen for a rally to protest the crude and belittling remarks made by Representative Sally Kerr, who called us terrorists, worse than cancer, and worse than Muslims. You'll remember that not long after our rally against Sally, she twice carried a handgun into the restricted state capitol building. She knows the law, but she broke it anyway. She was absolved of all wrongdoing with not even a slap on the wrist. Very much. Behind every gay man, there's a good lesbian. You try that trick once, carrying a gun into the Capitol, and your caboose will be in jail for a long time. Just forget about a second attempt. But today, we are legally and peacefully assembling and petitioning in full respect of our First Amendment rights. Now you tell me, who's the terrorist? Remember the contest that used to ask in 25 words or less why you like a certain product or service? I have a shorter version. It's called Tell Me in 20 Words or Less. Someone tell me in 20 words or less why my citizenship should be denied, diluted, and disparaged just because I'm a gay man. Tell me in 20 words or less why someone else's religious belief should be used to separate me from my partner, Don, of 32 years, should he need to be hospitalized. If you can, tell me in 20 words or less why one particular religious belief can be passed into civil law while another belief is ignored entirely. In 20 words or less, tell me why I cannot transfer my Social Security pension to my partner should I die first. In 20 words or less, tell me why I am forced to follow someone else's religious tenets that I do not believe in, and at the same time, my partner and I are denied civil liberties such as those enjoyed by those believers who are never asked questions about who they love. As President Obama And let me pause there. Can we all say President Obama? As President Obama has said many times, we are one country, neither gay or straight, white collar or blue collar, red state or blue state. We are the United States. This is something our opponents do not understand. When they recite the Pledge of Allegiance, do they end it by saying with suppression and injustice for some? I hope our energy here today persists for as long as necessary to force our government to recognize our birthright as citizens of a free as citizens of a free country with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Okay, according to the list, I'm the next guest speaker. So, hi, I'm Brett Gaither. Pretty much everybody here has said what I have to say. So I want everybody here to, first of all, give all our guest speakers today a big round of applause and a big cheer. And then of course we're gonna give everybody who showed up today a sign, because I'm looking around and seeing lots of pretty faces and lots of pretty signs. So everybody give each other a round of applause. Okay, that's really all I have to say. So, let me pass this off to Christopher Spivey. Hello. There you go. Y'all yell if I'm not loud enough, alright? Alright. First, to all of those who believe fear-mongering would work in the 2008 election, I have some fear of my own to spend. Imagine what our state would be like if between 3.5% and 5% of our tax revenue suddenly disappeared. Imagine what your favorite restaurant or bar would be like if you walked in and no one was there to serve you. Imagine if you called your family physician or your family lawyer and they didn't return your phone call. Imagine if you were inundated every day, day in, day out with protests, marches, sit-ins, and the like, and having to explain that to your friends and your family and your out-of-state relatives. On November 4th, the majority of the gay and lesbian community celebrated the victory of President Barack Obama. But subsequently, we mourned the passage of Proposition 8 in California, as well as similar measures in 3 other states. Our neighbors to the northeast even went so far as to ban gays and lesbians, as well as single people, I might add, from adopting or fostering children. A little closer to home, Oklahomans decided to oust a completely qualified gay man from a statewide office in lieu of an admitted forgerer. Helpful lesbian? I don't know, thank you. And also, Oklahoma House District 84 chose to re-elect to public service Sally Kern, a person who called gays and Muslims, you'll recall, worse than terrorists. So to all those people in this great state who felt the need to interfere with the rights of a group of people who, until now, have been very conciliatory, taking only what was given and seldom asking for more, this message is addressed partially to you. And also to those who sat idly by, waiting and allowed this to happen, waiting for some Selma or Birmingham-like moment from which to spring forth into action. I have a message for you too. Stop waiting, because one of the only things that the closed-minded bigots who feed off this fodder have learned to do right is not to use the old tactics of sicking the dogs or the hoses on us. These proponents of discrimination have learned the lessons of history past, to use the institutional structures of our society to promote their agenda through less aggressive, though no less harmful means. While I do not purport to speak for the entire Oklahoma queer community, I think I can say with a fair amount of confidence that collectively we have had enough. We're ready to do whatever is necessary to ensure equal rights to marriage, to family, to government benefits, to all of the opportunities available to each and every other Oklahoman. And now I think it'd only be fair to explain how we intend on accomplishing this. First, the gay community is in desperate need of fresh, young, innovative leadership. What we learned from this past election election is that despite as much hard work as it entails, grassroots leadership works. The queer movement has experienced this sort of leadership in places like DC and New York and LA, but not in places like Oklahoma City or Tulsa or Lawton or Woodward or Muskogee and all the other cities in this great state that we call home. Over and over again, we have seen that the data suggests that the strongest determinant of how a voter identifies on queer issues is age. So it only seems obvious that the best way to invigorate and excite pro-equality voters between the ages of 18 and 30 is to give these voters a 30-something peer mentor to work under. Someone these youths and young adults, whether gay, straight, or otherwise, can look up to as a model for future public interest in grassroots work. 2, we need to go guerrilla. Up until now, the community has worked extremely hard for the strides that have been made, but we need to work smarter instead of harder. In lieu of marching in parades or lobbying on a deaf legislature, unwilling to move even an inch on our issues, we need to be more aggressive. For example, we could follow Melissa Etheridge's lead and stop paying our taxes. Or we could follow in the footsteps of Dr. King and commit acts of civil disobedience. Ultimately, what we need to make note is that if we are going to be treated as a subclass apart from the citizens of the United States, then we will no longer agree to be bound to the duties that are payment for such a privilege. Government, after all, is merely a social contract, and when one party has materially breached their duties under a contract, the other party may unilaterally rescind his or her obligations. Now, I understand that some of my more risk-averse friends may not be as amenable to this sort of behavior. However, there are even ways that risk-averse seekers of equality can become involved in this new guerrilla approach. For example, each and every queer person here today could go and apply for a tax exemption based on your sexual orientation. If you were denied such an exemption, which as you undoubtedly would be, then you would have the right to initiate a lawsuit against this state. This is only one of a new infinite number of untested avenues to achieve the end result we all want to see. When we get to a point, as in California, where every business, every person, every entity that worked or contributed to take our rights away is boycotted, when we hit them in their pocketbooks, this is when we will begin to see the real change we need in our state. Finally, take no prisoners. One of the largest obstacles in any human rights struggle is separating the cause from the people working towards the cause. Now please, don't take this as belittling the glorious accomplishments of those before us who have taken us this far in our movement. What I am suggesting, however, is that we be willing to go further than we ever have before. We must begin to ask ourselves tough questions about some of the people who we love, admire, and respect. Because as far as we have come, we have so much farther to go. And at this point, we must recognize that it is no one person, no one legislator, no one church, no one school, not even one political party is delivering to us the results that we need. So let this moment put every person listening, friend or foe, on notice. This movement has nowhere to go but forward, and we're ready to take any action necessary to bring equality to Oklahoma. We will meet you in our schools, and we will meet you in our restaurants, the stores, the bars, and the playgrounds where our children play with your children. And we will meet you in our churches because some of us kneel next to you in common prayer. And yes, we will meet you on the steps of City Hall or wherever else we need to take this fight. And we will meet you there as many times for as many hours and as many days as it takes to get what we need. And where civil disobedience is required, we will act and we will take our punishment. Because unlike our opponents who may not abide by the rule of law, while they may trample over that founding creed that all men are created equal, we have the respect and the love of country that requires adherence to such principles, even when it may not be fair for us to do so. We will win this battle, not just because we have to, but because, as Dr. King once famously said, we have come to the tough spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make the real promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley to the sunlit path of justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksand of injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all. will today be the day that you drop the gauntlet? Every day that passes is another day we will have to justify to our children and to our grandchildren why we discriminated, why we persecuted, why we allowed such bigotry to pervade and brutalize our queer brothers and sisters. Will today be the day? Only you can decide that. One last page, I promise. It's windy out here today, isn't it? All right. So I'll leave you with the quote by Bayard Rustin, thank you, a gay African-American who worked with Dr. King and others to organize the 1963 March on Washington, one of the biggest and most influential civil rights demonstrations in history. Despite Rustin's efforts to organize the march, he was told he couldn't take part in it because he was openly gay. Rustin said, when an individual is protesting society's refusal to acknowledge his dignity as a human being, his very act of protest confers dignity on him. Enough is enough. Today is the day for me. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. I hope you'll join me. Everybody, I think D here deserves a round of applause for all the help today. And Pam here has also been super helpful. Everybody, round of applause for Pam. Okay, our next speaker is Brittany Novotny.
Oklahoma City, I'm so proud to stand in front of you guys right now. This is a great turnout, and I'm really happy to be here. We, you and me, we are Oklahomans. We are LGBT. We are LGBT allies. We are human beings. We are Oklahomans. I know that many of us have been wringing our hands the last week and a half. Some of us have gone so far as to make broad statements about some of our fellow Oklahomans who this year voted for candidates based merely on whether that candidate claimed to support, quote, conservative Oklahoma values. Well, what are conservative Oklahoma values anyway? I'm an Oklahoman, and I always thought that the values I shared with my fellow Oklahomans were the values of hard work, generosity, and treating others the way I want to be treated. Oklahoma bills itself as being in the heartland, but conservative politicians have been stirring up voters with hatred, bigotry, and divisiveness. Those aren't the Oklahoma values that I was raised with. Some true progressive candidates were handily defeated this year, but let us remember, they weren't defeated by a margin of 100% to 0%. There were still 30 to 40% of Oklahomans who chose not to vote for the politics of fear and division. That means that at least 1 in 3 Oklahomans chose hope over fear. 1 in 3. That may not sound like a majority, and it's not a majority, but that's a substantial group of Oklahomans who are ready for a politics of inclusiveness and fairness. Today, let's make sure that we make our voices heard and let the world know that we are Oklahomans too. Now, as Oklahomans, I want to take a minute to take the time to honor and recognize those in the LGBT community who have come before us and paved the way for us to be here today. People like Barbara Cleveland, also known by some as Mother Herland. Barbara was instrumental in the creation of Herland Sister Resources. And people like my uncle Jules Gullikers, who started opening up gay nightclubs in Oklahoma City in the late 70s and early 80s. My uncles told me stories of running these nightclubs during that time. Oftentimes, police officers would come into his club on a regular basis and harass customers, calling them faggots and queers, sometimes breaking glasses on the bar, and oftentimes arresting patrons for the mere crime of being gay. He even told me that he was arrested from time to time for violations such as having no soap in the restrooms. Of course, the only reason there was no soap in the restrooms was that the officers had gone in there and thrown the soap in the trash. Now, thankfully, whenever he'd get to court, the facts would come out and he would not be convicted. The charges would be dropped. But he had to keep an emergency bank bag hidden in the bar in order to bail out patrons of the club on a regular basis. This was the 1980s, folks. This was many of us were alive during this. And some of us remember. I'm 28, so I don't remember it, but I know you guys before me, you do. And there was a time when gay and lesbian people couldn't even enjoy a drink with their friends in a bar in Oklahoma City not that long ago. Now, as did not get said in my introduction, but that I'm going to say now, I am a trans woman. That means that at birth I was identified as male. I always knew something was different about me, and when faced with having to hide my true self from the world for the rest of my life, or choosing to be free and happy, I chose freedom. That was not an easy road, but it was an easier road than being a phony for the rest of my life. And even my mother, who was a devout Catholic, and at first was not supportive of my transition, admitted to me in the past year that she really understood now that this is who I am and that I'm a much happier person. My mother spent 3 weeks in the ICU in August and September. During her time there, she was in and out of a coma a couple of times. This one Saturday morning, I went up there expecting to find her still unconscious, and I walked in the room, and her eyes opened up. We stared at each other for a good 5 minutes before either one of us said a word to each other. And the first words that she uttered were, "Brittany, you're a beautiful woman, inside and out." Now, she didn't only grow to tolerate me, she grew to fully accepting me as the human being that I am. Unfortunately, she never made it out of the hospital. She passed away on September 15th. Although she's not here physically today, I know that she's watching down over me, and it's that faith that she raised me to have that keeps me going strong today. Now, aside from being a woman who happens to be transgender, I also happen to be a heterosexual woman. Yet in some states like Texas and Kansas, if I as a woman were to marry a man, which would appear to the casual observer to be a heterosexual relationship, both my husband and I could find our marriage to be nullified in the event that our marriage became the subject of litigation. As we are all painfully aware, Oklahoma, California, and many other states have passed statutes and constitutional amendments defining marriages between one, quote, man and one, quote, woman. Well, who gets to decide if you're a man or a woman? What about those folks who are born with ambiguous genitalia or ambiguous chromosomes? Are they not allowed to marry anybody? In Texas, Christy Lee Littleton was married to her husband for about 10 years when he was killed in a workplace accident. Christy filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the negligent party, and in her deposition, when asked if she had ever gone by any prior names, she had to disclose that she had a past as a male. At that point, defense attorneys working for a large insurance company moved the court to dismiss the lawsuit on the grounds that she could never have legally been married to her husband in Texas, because even though she had fully transitioned to female, even though she identified herself as female, had a birth certificate stating she was female, and had a husband that cared and loved for her for the woman that she was, Texas says marriage can only be between a man and a woman. Now, almost needless to say, the court sided with the defense attorneys, and her lawsuit was dismissed. After 10 years of being married to the woman he loved, this heterosexual man was told that his marriage wasn't valid. This late heterosexual man, sorry, I'm lost, it's windy. Okay. Now, and after 10 years of being married to the man that she loved, she was told that her marriage hadn't really existed. The rights and benefits this couple believed to have attained with their marriage certificate were taken away with the stroke of a pen of a conservative activist judge. The issue of marriage equality really does affect more than just the LGBT community. It also affects heterosexual men and women who happen to fall in love with persons who have a past of being transgendered or who are intersexed. And it really is just an issue of basic human rights. In a democracy, a constitutional democracy, the Constitution is supposed to protect the rights of minority groups against the tyranny of the majority. Yet we live in a land today where a bare majority of voters have been allowed to write discrimination into their state constitution. We in the LGBT community don't want special rights. We want to be able to find love and have that love recognized by the state, regardless of our gender and regardless of our religion. We don't want to force any church or denomination to adjust its own moral code. If any church or denomination wishes not to recognize our marriages, that is their right. The state, however, is supposed to treat all of us equally, regardless of our race, religion, or gender. We LGBT Oklahomans are your sisters and brothers. We are your aunts and uncles. We are your mothers and fathers. We are your cousins and friends. We are Oklahomans, and we want to be treated equally under the law. Thank you, and God bless.
That was pretty amazing. Just have to say, wow. Our next speaker is the lovely, the talented Mr. Scott Jones.
I love Scott Jones.
I've never been introduced as lovely before, so thank you for that. Well, when I come to these events, I always have to decide which bling I'm going to wear. And today I'm wearing my I Am Not a Terrorist pin, in reference to our good friend Sally. And also a pin that combines a pink triangle with the cross. Because the pink triangle, of course, is the badge that the Nazis would have made us wear if we had lived in Germany in the 1930s. And by combining the cross and the pink triangle, we reclaim two symbols of torture and oppression and use them for liberation and for hope. And in the last year, since the murder of Stephen Domer by the Aryan Brotherhood, and then with the absurd and outrageous statements of Sally Kern, this community has come together in a way it never has before, with vigils and rallies and events again and again. We have seen now, we used to joke that there were the same 25 people showed up for every event. Now there are hundreds of people showing up at event after event, and we are taking these moments that our enemies intend to be for harm against us and turning them around for our own liberation and our own hope and building our community and finding strength and finding power and using our voice and using our feet and using our pocketbooks. And we are in the midst of a new movement, and I am just excited by all the people that are here and by the people who've organized and the fact and the great speeches that have come before, and the fact that we can take this that our enemies intended for our harm and we will turn it for our good, and that this movement will gain new strength and new force as we move forth for equality here in Oklahoma, equality in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. We've reached the part of the evening, or day, I guess, whatever, where we are going to do a few more chants. Is Aviva Pressman here? No. Okay. Well, she was on my list as the speaker for this, so I'd actually like to ask my friend Jessie if she will come up and lead us in a chant. So Jessie, would you like to come over here and do that for me?
Jesse!
It's your basic chant. What do we want? Equal rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Equal rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Equal rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Equal rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Equal rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Equal rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Equal rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Equal rights. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Equal rights. When do we want it? Now.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Okay, I'd also like to ask Trey to come up and maybe give a closing since he's the man that put this all together today. Everybody, one more round of applause for Trey.
Okay. I think I have one more chant. It's kind of become my favorite that I've discovered recently, so I hope you'll join in with me. 2, 4, 6, 8. How do you know your kids are straight? 2, 4, 6, 8. How do you know your kids are straight? 2, 4, 6, 8. How do you know your kids are straight? 2, 4, 6, 8. How do you know your kids are straight? 2, 4, 6, 8. How do you know your kids are straight? 2, 4, 6, 8. How do you know your kids are straight? 2, 4, 6, 8.
Okay, thank you all for coming out today. I hope you had a fantastic time and that you've learned something and you met some people and you all, got your voices heard. And thank you for being here. Thanks.